So the holidays can be a stressful time of year. One strategy I've taken and have found to be just an awesome way to minimize stress a little bit has been having a diffuser running in different parts of my house, whether that's having lavender oil, that's having lemon or orange, depending on what mood I'm in and what I'm kind of going for, even immune strength. If this is something that you're interested in, you've been thinking about doing essential oils, I'd encourage you to hop on goodnesschick.com, check out my storefront. It's a great time of year, not only to pass them on as a gift, but to kind of begin a new year implementing things that are all about self-care and wellness, and really at the end of the day just make you feel better. It's a beautiful thing. I've been using essential oils for a number of years now and have found them just to be very beneficial in so many different ways. I love Rocky Mount. I've been an affiliate with them for quite a while now, and encourage you, if you've been on the fence, check it out. Goodness Chick's storefront, and going with the vibe of the holidays, talking about we are in festive season, big time right now. And with that, looking at some strategies, how to get through the next few weeks in a way that doesn't push you over the edge, in the way we're still clinging on to what the holidays are all about. Whether you celebrate Hanukkah, whether you celebrate Christmas, it's really easy this time of year where it's kind of like we're going full speed ahead. And so many of us can get so stressed out and overwhelmed and feel like we're that rubber band that we've got, holding on real tight with both hands, and we keep stretching. And at some point, that rubber band either begins to have cracks shown and visible, or it snaps. And when that rubber band snaps, it stings and it hurts, and it's unnecessary. I believe throughout all different types of times in our life, being prepared and having a game plan about how we're going to tackle things is really important, because it can make the experience a whole lot less stressful. It can make the experience a whole lot more enjoyable. And so today, I'm going to be breaking down 4 different ways to get through the next aspect of Festivus for the rest of us, the festive Christmas, Hanukkah season, in a way that we're just enjoying it. We're being less stressed, and we're allowing the next few weeks to not just kind of slip through our fingertips and step back in the middle of January, beginning of January, and say, I'm exhausted. And I think so many times it's kind of like, I just need to get through the next few weeks. If I just do this, I just have to take this off of my checklist. And it becomes a whole lot of justs. And with that, we get tired. And with that, when we're tired, it affects people around us. And we can sometimes lose sight of that to say, well, I can do it, I can get through it, and I'll do this, go, and not realizing the patterns that we acquire, the decisions that we make to do certain things have a ripple effect, and it affects other people within our household, at work, at school, wherever the heck we are. It absolutely has an effect. So the first thing we're going to rock out today that I think is absolutely critical and important, and I know we're already in the holiday season, but setting boundaries is so important, not just during the month of December, but throughout the course of the year, particularly during holidays when things can absolutely get crazy train. And it's setting boundaries, whether that be with friends, family, extended family, whatever the heck it is. And this kind of gives me a flash to Clark Griswold. If you've seen Christmas Vacation, which I'm hoping you have, if you haven't, you absolutely, it is one of those things you have to watch. I love it, but it absolutely puts out where Clark Griswold had very he didn't have boundaries, right? And it caused him at one point, just he bugs out. And it's absolutely okay and healthy without needing to hurt anybody's feelings. Like, okay, are we going to have the entire family over for 5 or 6 nights, right? Or why don't we look at 3 nights that everybody's in the house, right? It's not discounting the importance and beauty of family at all. But it's saying, okay, what we have stressed already. Now we have everybody in the house for this amount of time. It's setting boundaries. And I think that can be healthy. And it's like, well, everybody's together for 5 nights. That's awesome if that's a healthy thing for you guys. But with that, maybe creating activities that everybody's not together 24/7. Because whether we like it or not, the holidays can really be super duper stressful for people, because it can also trigger a whole lot of feelings for different things that we've been through in life, right? And we're going to get to the grief aspect of it, but the holidays aren't always awesome for everybody. And it's taking things into consideration where whether we've lost somebody, whether some other form of traumatic event has happened, money's tight, we've had relationship issues. So it's like, okay, we're going on and on here. But it is really important to take these things into consideration. And this is where boundaries can also reinforce a healthy form of tradition. I really, really do. And with that, you think about Clark Griswold had a very unrealistic expectation. We can do this to ourselves sometimes of what this Christmas experience is going to be, right? I'm going to have the 5,000 lights on the house. They're going to be perfect. Everybody is going to get along the entire time. It's going to be perfect. The turkey is going to look like this. We're going to go do these outings together. And the reality is in life, like things aren't perfect. People have disputes. The turkey, might get burnt. The kids are going to get in an argument or somebody hurts themselves. I mean, where we have to leave room for reality. And that can be really hard sometimes when we're scrolling through Instagram, right? And it's like everything looks perfect. If I were to show you my Christmas tree, I dig it. It's not perfect. Things aren't aligned. There's not, I don't have actually probably half of my Christmas ornaments on the tree that are glass because my kid would knock them over and it would shatter. So it's not perfect. I'm okay with that. And realizing that nothing's perfect. And it's so easy to kind of get into this zone, especially during a holiday season when, money's tight. Or, I know my spouse gets really stressed out and they're drinking again, right? Or my kid, I think they're using pills again, or they're self-harming, or they're just really sad and in the room. And the holidays aren't what I'm seeing on this person's, I'm looking at their Instagram story, or I'm looking at this on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And social media absolutely can be a beautiful thing, right? It's a great way of reaching out to other people, of staying connected. But it can also put us in the zone of, I'm not good enough, or I can't provide this type of holiday for the people that I love. We need to stay away from that because your reality is your reality. Nothing is perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect. Nobody's putting anything off balance for the most part of imperfection on social media. They're not, and I've been guilty of that too. It's like, well, everybody's smiling. Everybody isn't smiling. Everybody isn't happy. But when we kind of allow ourselves to take a step back and say, this is my Christmas experience. This is my reality. This is my Hanukkah experience. This is my reality. And nothing will be perfect, but it's your moment. And it's allowing yourself to say, it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay not to compare, and it's healthy not to compare. And now going into the second thing from set boundaries to downtime. It can be like the great race when it comes to the few weeks, especially in December, where we're going crazy, right? We're up earlier. What do I have to do? This is my list, and these are the gifts I have to get, and this has to be done in the house, and that has to be this list. And we can really be just on edge and feel, holy cow, I can hardly breathe. My anxiety is through the roof. My stress, if you talk to me right now, I'm going to bug out. And that's not what this time of year is about, right? It's not what it's about. And so with that, it's advocating for yourself, because when we do that, we're better at everything else in our lives, better as spouses, partners, as parents, as friends, as people in the workplace, we're better, right? So you deserve downtime. I don't have time for downtime. Well, figure it out. And that can be simply, you're having a cup of coffee. Well, you wake up a little bit earlier and have a cup of coffee on your couch and just you're sitting. And whether that's a time of prayer, a time of reflection, just to relax, have no cell phone use, to I'm driving to work and there's no radio on. There's no cell phone, as there should not be a cell phone. There's etching out time. I'm going to go for a walk, right? Or I'm going to sit out on the porch and get some fresh air. And getting outside, I know it can be super cold depending on where you're at, but we still need outside time. We need a little bit of sunlight, because this is where it can absolutely reinforce us getting funky. Festive funkiness is not fun. It could be, you know what, we're not doing something that we, I feel like we should do, this obligation. It's okay sometimes to say no. And hey, you know what? I'm going to sit home. We're watching movies. We're going to eat popcorn. We're going to do whatever it is that brings us down from warp speed. And it is okay to have downtime. It's okay to let people know, you know what, it's been a little crazy train. I'm doing some recharge. I'm going to go to the gym today, or I'm going to go do this instead of doing something that's just simply going to extract more energy from me. Oh, so we got set boundaries. We've got downtime. The third is grief. For those of you who are listening, some of you have lost somebody that you care about. The holidays can be really, really tough. It can trigger a whole lot of emotions, whether it's the first year without somebody or it's the 30th year without somebody. Loss, the feeling of loss is forever, right? It doesn't like, oh, it's been 10 years and you're better. And everybody has a different way of dealing, and their healing process and their time and their reaction to different events throughout the course of the year will be different. And that includes holidays, and being sensitive to that, and being sensitive to yourself, where if you used to be the one that has hosted everything, it's okay to say, you know what, we're not doing it at my place this year. Or if you're like, we're still hosting, or whatever it is, or you're going to somebody's house, making sure that that person doesn't have to do anything, right? Everybody's bringing something. And that's where it's releasing ourselves from control, releasing ourselves from perfection, right? It's okay to mix things up a little bit, where you're giving that person who's hurting some downtime, letting their heart recharge. It's also okay if you're at a point that to start new traditions. That can be hard, because sometimes those old traditions can kind of feel like salt in the wound, where we could say, you know, I'm doing this, but this person's not here anymore, and I feel really uncomfortable about it. Sometimes that doing the same thing can make us feel, it can be assuring, and other times it can make us feel uncomfortable. And this is where, if that's the case, new traditions are okay. They're absolutely okay. And that could be sitting with somebody that's maybe gone through something similar, or maybe they're in the same boat as you, and saying, you know, well, what did you do? I believe that greatly, where it can be really hard, where you can think, you know, nobody else understands what I'm going through. Well, I can guarantee you somebody else does. And when we reach out, which can be really hard to do sometimes, to say, hey, you want to get a cup of coffee, and talking to someone else who has experienced a similar form of grief, and getting encouragement from them, or asking them questions, it's okay. And because I'm going to tell you that person on the other end is probably feeling good that they're being asked those questions, and that they're also not alone. We can really feel alone when it comes to grief, and asking and extending ourselves to say, I don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning. I don't want to decorate my house, right? I don't want to do whatever it is, or I feel like I need to be doing this, and communicating and hashing it out, and feeling, reinforcing that you're not alone. And this is where grief, when it comes to also setting boundaries, when it comes to grief, you're allowed to set boundaries. You're allowed to set boundaries. You're allowed to start new traditions. You're allowed to remind yourself, this is really important, that too much downtime around the holidays when you're hurting and you're sad and you're feeling funky is not a good thing. So it's calling that wingman. It's hitting somebody up and saying, let's go for a walk. You know, let's go meet up, and do you want to do this with me? Or I really don't feel like going anywhere where there's glitter and, you know, packages and whatever, all things holiday. Can we go and go get a cup of coffee? Go get a cup of hot tea? Can you want to go grab something to eat? Whatever it is, do you want to just come over and let's chat? That it's okay to extend and say, I need somebody, dude, because when we try to go at things solo, nothing positive comes of it. And we can try to be like islands sometimes, right? We're intended to be like islands, to roll solo, because nothing good comes of that. So that's the grief train. The grief, super awesome. And I mean that obviously sarcastically, but preparing ourselves with all things when it comes to mental health, when it comes to our emotions, comes to our past and our present. When we have a game plan and we have a strategy, it really makes things so much easier. It really does. And the last one, which I think also is tremendously important, is moderation management. I think when it gets colder, there's less sunlight. Sometimes we can get this mentality is like we throw everything rational and healthy, if you will, and this is not for everybody, but kind of out the window. We go into kind of hibernation bear mode status. It's the holidays. I'm going to go crazy train with that cake and those cookies and do this, and I'm not exercising. Well, here's the deal. And I am super duper I'm far from perfection, but something I've really become more aware of over the past year is that we have one body, right? You don't get a replacement. It's not like you're, going to go get a new pair of tires for your car and they just throw in another set. That's not what happens, right? There's one us. And so with that, it's not having cookies and not having cake or not whatever, not indulging a little bit, but it's having a game plan before the craziness starts. Or if it's already started, where it's saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to have 2 cookies today at this thing. And I'll have, 1 helping of this. And that's not to refrain and keep us from having fun, but it's allowing ourselves to say, hold ourselves as important and saying, because I can tell you 10 days into the new year and you hop on a scale and I gained 15 pounds, not only because I ate too much, which now I'm beating myself up for, but I haven't been exercising, right? And you could say, man, this time of year, I don't feel like it. Well, nobody really ever feels like it, but you got one body, right? So maybe you have to go to the mall to get something. And before you do, you walk for 20 minutes, right? Or it's making sure you get in some gym time, or you do that thing, that whatever it is on YouTube that you can do an exercise to, or something to get your heart just moving, heart moving. You are not a bear where we can be in a cave and just sit still for a few months. We can't, because what happens when we do that, especially during the holidays, it's easier to lapse into feeling funky, to becoming more prone to being anxious, to having our stress levels heightened. And now I'm stressed, and so I'm going to eat. And that's okay. I can eat because it's the holidays. And we make rationalizations, if you will. But when we go into a mindset, okay, for the next few weeks, man, I'm rocking out. I'm going to be sure I rock out some moderation management. And it's okay to have somebody that you could even call your wingman with this and say, yo, hold me accountable. Accountability does beautiful things. Something to think about, because when the holiday season's over, we get to December 31st, the middle of January rolls around. And for us to say, you know what, man, I held my ground. And I cared and loved myself enough to do that I set boundaries, that I allowed myself to have downtime. I had boundaries when it came to that this is the first or 20th year that I've had this holiday without this person or these people. And I've also been able to hold my ground when it comes to moderation management. And there are 4 things that are pretty big things, but when we stand our ground and say, you know what, I care about myself enough, I love myself enough, that this is what's happening, because I want to be the best person that I can be. I want to be able to not have everybody walking around on eggshells this time of year because they know I'm super stressed. And when we're super stressed and we're on edge, more often than not, we're not fun people to be around. It's not fun, right? People kind of like, okay, take a step back and should I say this? Should I do that? Is that going to drive them over the edge? And that's not fun, and that's not healthy for anybody. So it's no longer allowing ourselves to think that it's my problem and I'm going to do this and it's going to be okay and I'll just get through the next few weeks, warp speed ahead. It affects everybody around us. And it's really neat when we hop on that train, we take that line of saying, I'm going to advocate for myself. I'm going to love myself enough that I'm reinforcing and I'm incorporating these things into my life. Awesome. How beautiful is that? It is a beautiful way of rocking out this time of year, my friends. So I'm wishing you a heap of peace, love, and goodness, my friends.